Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the implications of the crisis in Libya on Black Africa. And of course we have with us to talk about the implication of the crisis on Libya on Black Africa, Dr. LMadu. And Dr. LMadu, I might say, and I guess our audience will also say, that you certainly are no stranger to what we do here at Comments with Dr. James Haney, and that over the many years you've offered us such valuable information about the continent of Africa, the Middle East and South America, just a whole lot of foreign policy kind of information. And we're certainly glad to welcome you this morning to deal with a crisis that seems to be ongoing, and that is what is going on in Libya today. And you've got some implications in reference to that. Let's start off by talking about Libya from your perspective, Dr. LMadu.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure to be back to your program. You know, what has been happening in Libya now started in February. And of course, we know what happened in Tunisia. That started the so-called Arab Spring, from Tunisia to Egypt, Yemen, Bahrain, and then to Libya. But of all the crises, you know, in North Africa, the Libyan situation has direct implications and consequences for Black Africa.
For Africa itself.
And when I say Black Africa, you know, I mean it literally, because in Africa, some people don't understand that, but you have white Africa and you have Black Africa. And white Africa is normally called the Maghreb. Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, you know. And most of those countries really don't consider themselves Africans because most of their economic, cultural, and political ties are with the Southern European countries. Most of them face Europe, to Spain, to Italy, you know, you name it. So politically, they claim to be Africa, but they are not. Geographically, they're in Africa. So prior to Colonel Gaddafi, you know, coming to power in 1969, Libya was practically an unknown country. But at the same time, you know, a country where you had several tiers of classes. The black-skinned Africans, you know, were treated as if they don't belong to the country by the Senussi dynasty. You know, so when Gaddafi took over in 1969, initially, you know, he was an Arab nationalist who wants the Arab countries to unite, the Arab countries to wage war against Israel. But when he found out that most Arab leaders weren't listening to him, in the late 80s to 90s, he shifted focus to Africa. He started seeing Libya as an African country. Instead of running away. And that's what they've done.
He embraced Libya, I mean, in Africa now.
Exactly. Started embracing Black Africa, you know. He supported a whole lot of rebel movements in Africa. You know, started building a whole lot of institutions in Africa. Places that didn't have hospitals, like in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, started building a lot of mosques, schools, clinics, etc., etc. And also to the southern, you know, blacks in Libya who came across originally from Niger and all these became citizens, you know, started trying to improve their lot. So what happened was that most of the Arab countries and majority of the population in Libya did not welcome that move. They still saw themselves as Europeans other than Africans. So Gaddafi's policy was alienating all the Arab leaders and also the population in Libya, particularly the Libyans. Now, of course, one would say, well, you know, Gaddafi did that in Africa as a means of trying to shift policy and protect himself, which of course that's true. You know, because when he fell out with Egypt, fell out with the king of Saudi Arabia, and fell out with King Abdullah in Jordan, he had no alternative but to turn to Africa. So, but that policy became a very big problem for him politically in Libya. What was happening was that Gaddafi created what he called this federation account. which he uses to finance projects in
Okay,
Africa.
Dr. Madu, we're getting ready, as you know, for our first commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to pick up at that point. But but the information that you're giving us now has painted a picture that I would imagine very few of us have rarely realized, and that is that Libya plays a very, very important part dealing with Black Africa, more so in a real sense than any other country, any other section. And so when we come back, we'll pick up at that particular point, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. And welcome back to the second segment of the show.